Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Subscribing to My Podcast. Because I have a new guest on the show every week, it's very difficult to get consistent viewership. So if there's one thing that you can do to support me and the guest featured on my show, is by interacting with the video. You can always unsubscribe later if you hate me or the content. Without further ado, here's your episode with Matt Christesen, also known as Sensei Matt on campus, makes comedy karate videos teaching people self-defense, martial arts, and other things. He's also just a campus personality. He met me at Club Fest. He talked to me about wanting to start and expand a little bit of his brand, maybe going to the podcast game. And I thought that he was just such a wonderful person to talk to. And now I have him on here. But Matt,
thank you
Sensei
so much,
Matt,
Elijah. Hey, man,
nice
it's a pleasure
here.
to be here. Thank you so much, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Sensei Matt, where do you come from? Like, who are you?
Elijah, is that even a question? The dojo, man. Come on now.
Okay, you come from the dojo, but like, where does like Sensei Matt come from? Like, what's your story? What's your origin?
I'll tell you what. When I was in middle school, my best friend, he's put in a coma by a crazy pack of hooligan ninjas. And ever since then, I didn't want to see anyone else go through the pain that he went through. So I started spreading the word of self-defense. Now I'm here at Iowa State University, empowering other people through comedy self-defense reels on Instagram. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and follow.
Okay. I think Sensei Matt is one of the most charming things to watch. But I think it's hard for people to engage with content, period. They just don't understand where it starts. And they see you, and you're just like a little content worm, like you just started. And they see all of the people who are professionals at this, who have succeeded, who make millions of dollars. And it's hard for them to see the growth or the grind that it takes to get there. And it's hard for them to be there. So you're starting making content. You've been doing this for a relatively short time, like a couple
5 months.
years. 5 months, yeah.
5 months.
So you've been doing this for a short time, and this is the start of something. But it's interesting because you are Matt Christesen, but you're also Sensei Matt. And a lot of Sensei Matt is really who you are, but you're kind of playing a character. But you're also, that character is somewhat you. This is a complex line, and I just want to hear your thoughts. How do you like balance between being Matthew Christesen and Sensei Matt? Like, what does this look like for you?
Absolutely, Elijah. Now, you guys, this is insider information. I've never opened up to someone about this before, but Sensei Matt is 100% Matthew Christesen. We're the same guy. I just bring it out to the 10th. You know, Matthew Christesen, me, is on the USA Karate National team. I started when I was 10. I'm a third-degree black belt now. And one day I woke up and said, there's got to be something more I can do. I think I have a pretty darn engaging personality. I know how to use social media, and I have martial arts. So I said, okay, how can I make a product and put this all into one? And that's where Sensei Matt started. So I used to do actually tutorial videos. If you scroll down far enough on my Instagram channel, you'll see them. So if you ever doubt Sensei Matt's ability, just go check that out. You guys might learn something there. Now, I noticed that as we started making more comedy, eye-appealing, fast twitch content, people started engaging more and more. So I said, okay, I'm going to give the consumer what they want. I'm going to keep making these self-defense comedy reels. And it just took off. Every day, me and my buddies after school, senior year in high school, we'd meet up and we'd make like 4 videos a day. If you look at my channel, I have over 60 videos that have been produced, and you say it's a grind. It didn't feel like a grind. It's just fun. They say that if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And obviously, there is a little bit of work that goes into it, especially on the editing side. But when you love that product, and you were saying, Sensei Matt's so charming to watch, there's a lot of work that goes into that. But it doesn't feel like work because you're in a flow. For me, it's a flow state, and it's just what I love to do, you guys. So I hope that answers your question. Sensei Matt, if you see him on campus, come by and say hi. I always love meeting you guys. And yeah, we'll snap a picture, sign an autograph, whatever you guys need from me.
Well, you know, where does the inspiration to start making content come from? Because I know that you're very, like, you genuinely are interested in karate. You're skilled at karate. You've been doing this for a long time. But where does it begin where you're like, okay, now let's start recording videos. Like, let's start putting this out there. What does that even mean to you, and where did that start?
Absolutely. You know, I think it was more of a social thing at one point. So originally, I wanted to go ahead and start marketing my content I started on YouTube. I wasn't on Instagram originally. I was on YouTube making these tutorial videos, and I would just put them on Instagram because all my buddies were like, okay, you're making these videos, might as well throw it on Instagram, see what happens. Well, my Instagram engagement was almost 3 times what I had on YouTube. The algorithms are a lot different, and the videos I was producing, the content style, they were much more appealing to Instagram's algorithm than YouTube, and there's a variety of reasons why we can get into that later. But I actually specialized on Instagram, and a lot of the Instagram content that was being consumed were by kids from my school, my peers. I come from Illinois Barrington High School, and a lot of my peers used to watch my content. They still do. I love all you guys. Thanks for the support. And it just got to a point where I said, you know what? This is really cool. I'm going to these parties, and I'm meeting all these people, and they know who Sensei Matt is, and let's just get the ball rolling. It's a really good party trick, you know, to pull out some Sensei Matt videos. I mean, you guys check it out. We're on the Chicago River. Me and my buddy Aiden, shout out to Aiden Mason. We do a little tutorial video of how to stance floor self-defense, how to defend yourself when someone comes up to you as you're just chilling from behind. And that one did pretty well. And I said, you know what? These public skits that we're doing, there's something to it. Because when you get a crowd involved, you get that high energy, there's something about that engagement with the people who are watching back home that energy transfers. There's more likes, there's more clicks, there's more comments, and then there's more shares. And those shares, the Instagram algorithm does two things. It judges you by comments and shares. Likes don't matter. And watch time, plays. So those videos where you have a huge crowd screaming in the background, those ones they take off. And then as far as why I do the content that I create, it's really just because I love doing it. It's just a passion that I have. It might sound vain to say, I love seeing Sensei Matt on camera. I love making these memories with my friends, and I love sharing it with people. It's such a cool feeling when I'm just sitting there on campus, just minding my own business, and people come up, Sensei Matt, what's going on? Hey, guys, how's it going? You know, it's just one of those things where, guys, never be shy to come up and say hi to me. I love all you guys. It's awesome meeting you guys. I just love people. I have a very extroverted personality, and I feel like the reach that I have on Instagram doing this content just furthers and furthers my ability to kind of spread myself a little further. And really on campus, we're looking to get to 10,000 by the end of the year, you guys. So anyone watching, like I said, make sure you like, comment, share, and follow. We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. Well, you know, you started making videos, and it started as something that you really enjoyed, and it started as something that you want to do with friends, but now you have this follower goal. Mm-hmm. What is your purpose for making content now? Like, what actually drives you forward? What are the aspects of making content that you really like? And then when you look 10 years from now, what does your content journey look like?
Yeah, in the next 10 years, I'll be the next Will Smith.
Okay. That's crazy.
You know what, you guys, I'll tell you what, I'm studying in the library, and people come up to me and say, Sensei Matt, why are you here? Got to get that homework in, you guys. No, you don't. You got an acting career to focus on. I think that's great, but there's something to be said for acting and waiters. They have a similar occupation. So you're cringe until you make it, right? And that's one thing that I've always found funny. We talk about this all the time as content producers. People look at you cross-eyed like, you're making that stupid YouTube video again? Come on, get a life. Mr. Beast said it. I think everyone's heard the quote, make 100 videos, and then you'll start to get good. You start to get good after 100 videos. I'm at 60 right now. So I have plenty of tread left in the tires to keep doing this. And I'm really excited to see where this takes me. But right now, my purpose is actually not only to spread my name on campus, but I want to get to a place where not only do I have monetization and a little more incentive to make these videos, but also a position where maybe I can start getting into that industry, you know, the acting industry, and see where that could take me. You know, right now I'm looking at a finance degree, being an investment banker as a student. Matthew Christesen, the student, is looking at being an investment banker. But Sensei Matt is an entertainer. He loves that acting industry. You might see me in Hollywood, you guys. This might be where it all starts. So I've been at it for 5 months. We're at about 2,500 followers. I think that's a pretty darn good conversion rate. We're going to see where this takes us. We just got to keep putting in the work. But we don't call it work. It's a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, well, I think you kind of hit it on the head with it's cringe until you make it. I think one of the interesting things about content in general is when people talk to you, they're like, oh, how's that little Instagram thing going? And it doesn't matter how big it's gotten until you've hit like some crazy threshold. They just
Elijah,
don't get it.
You know what's funny? I know my mom's watching this back home. That's what she says every time. No one else I meet says that. They're like, dude, Sensei Matt, 10,000. It's coming up soon. You're going to be the biggest guy on campus in no time. I call my mom. Yeah, how's that little Instagram thing going? Did you make a video today or something? I hope you didn't spend too long editing that. Did you study for your econ test?
Yeah, I would say it's interesting because there's some sort of like age thing where like they look at content and they just don't get how content works. But people our age who understand how content works,
It's a big deal.
they've only been exposed to the people who were there, and they were not exposed to those people when they were making episode 30 of like their series that got them famous or whatever. And so now they get to see where it actually starts, and that's why I really like that you're able to be on here and be vulnerable about this content thing, and what it means. When I'm looking at your aspirations, though, being an actor is like a personal aspiration. Is there something like universal that you're looking to do with your content? Like, are you interested in actually teaching people self-defense?
Yeah.
Are you interested in like making people smile or like making people happy? Or like what are these kind of like universal goals that you're looking for when you like make content?
Absolutely. So there's 3 parts to answer that question. Number 1 is I do love seeing a smile on someone's face watching my content. It's just so cool to know that some people are like, you know what, Matt, I was having a really tough day. I watched your Sensei Matt video and it put me in a new mood, a new vibration. Just kind of getting to laugh a little bit. Like I wasn't expecting to see that. That spinning wheel kick was pretty funny. And I think there's something to be said for also inspiring the younger generation, because I've spent over 350 hours now teaching karate to students with different abilities, younger kids, and they all watch my content back home in Illinois. And there's this one guy, Matthew. He's Sensei Matt Jr. He is 7 years old. He's my buddy. And he's my biggest inspiration. He's such a tough kid. And he has a lot of things he works through. But getting to see him at karate, and he told me, he said before I left, the day before I left and I saw him, he said, hey, when you go off to college, can I be Sensei Matt? I said, yeah, you're going to hold on to that legacy from me, buddy. You're going to be Sensei Matt Jr. over here. Hold down the fort, and I'll be back in no time. So I miss him every day, but he's making his own content now, too. He's doing Sensei Matt tutorial videos in his own way, guys, and it's so cool to see just the effect and the inspiration that just that content, and I wouldn't say it's the content itself, it's the energy you're putting into it, the work, if you want to call it that, and I guess the overall engagement that you're engaging with not only the camera, you're engaging with the audience back home, and they're starting to really realize that, you know what, this guy, he brings his personality out to the 10th degree, right? I could do that too. If this guy can be himself, why can't I? And I'm noticing that a lot of people who like are watching my content and starting to get into the industry themselves, they're a little more vulnerable. Like they're actually okay with being themselves. Now, one thing that I do struggle with sometimes too is I feel like I always have to be 100% locked in. I have to be 100% on all the time. Everything I have to say has to be like a super sweet one-liner. And we're people. It's very tough to be able to do that 24 hours in a day, 365. It's really tough. But I feel like kind of putting that out there and saying, you know what, guys, it's okay. Making content as a producer, you and I were a little bit on edge before coming on the podcast because we know that we have to be on. You have to have a very entertaining experience for the viewer to be successful in this industry. You are a performer. So there is a little bit of pressure there on you, but I think pressure, like they say, pressure makes diamonds. And the more you have and the better you get dealing with it, you get inoculated to it very quick. I used to make these videos in my high school, and we'd have like a couple kids stop by and watch. Now when I make a video, I have like at least 20, 30 people around watching us create, helping us with production. And one thing that you have to think about too is, yeah, they're on your production team, but you can't let them down. No one wants to sit there and do a million takes. You got to be on, you know? And especially when you talk about acting, I told you guys this already. Sensei Matt, it's me to the 10th degree, but you have to be able to act in that way. You have to be able to, maybe you're not feeling it. Maybe you just had a bad test. Maybe you had, you know, you're juggling a lot of things. You have your parents back home. You have your school life. You have the gym grind. You have relationships. Sometimes not everything's on par, but you got to just put that, you have to compartmentalize, put that in the back seat and just put a smile on your face, and you just got to be present where you are. And I think that's really important for everything in life. And I feel like grounding exercises, meditation, I feel like that's good, but I feel like martial arts is where it's at. And I feel like if you can reach that flow state by practicing martial arts, there's really, really something to be impacted on your life. There you can extract a lot just from going and practicing martial arts for an hour a day. That's one reason why I'm such a big advocate for karate, because karate did change my life. It taught me discipline, patience. It taught me how to be present in the moment, which is something that since I was a little kid, it was very hard for me to do. I'd always be thinking about what's on my left, what's on my right. I'd never be able to sit present here talking to you in this conversation. There's always something else going on in the back of my mind. But karate, from practicing it for so many years, I'm 18, I'm soon to be 19, almost 9 years now. I started when I was 10, like I said. There's something to be said for going in every day, putting an hour, 2, sometimes even 3 hours in to just practicing and be disciplined with it. And that in turn allows you to be a much more effective human being in your day-to-day life. Now, guys, one thing I'm going to pitch to you guys is I'm starting Sensei Matt Self-Defense Club. So you were asking me, do you want to put a smile on people's face? Absolutely. But I also want to teach you guys actually how to defend yourself. So when that big scary guy comes up behind you at midnight, behind that ATM, you know what to do. And there's something to be said for empowering others through self-defense. It's the greatest feeling in the world when you know that you have nothing to be afraid of when you walk into a room. And you can tell when you meet someone like that, there's an aura. People use the word aura all the time. It's just energy. You can tell when someone walks in the room when they're 100% confident in themselves. I notice when I walk in a room sometimes, people get a little thrown off. Like they're like, this guy is too confident. They almost think it's like an ego thing. It's not. I've just trained for so many years and put so much time in that I'm comfortable that I can handle anything that comes my way. And that's a feeling that it's invaluable. You can't buy that. You have to put in the time to get there. And if I could help people get to that position, that's where it's at, man. So I'm starting Sensei Matt's Self-Defense Club in about a month or so. It'll be on my Instagram. You guys go check it out. We're going to be teaching real self-defense there. Don't try what I show you in my videos because that might get you killed.
Yeah, and there's a lot I want to tackle there.
Okay.
A little bit more specifically in the content grind, you talked about, confidence and like what that means. And I think that you and me have very different styles of pursuing the content game. In the position that I'm in with podcasting, it's really important that I come off as philosophical, humble, understanding, and maybe a few other things so that I can elicit the most real reaction from the guests that I have on the show.
I love that.
Your perspective as an actor, as a skit creator, as someone who needs to be knowledgeable in something, you have to rely a lot more on confidence to get that across. So you need to be confident in that what you're doing is going to be effective. You need to be confident in what you're doing is going to get views. And then, of course, you need to be confident in the karate that you're teaching and that it's like an accurate thing to do.
Yeah.
How do you not come off as kind of a douche when you're like bouncing like confidence is effective? Like objectively, it's effective at reaching the goal that you need to in content. But at the same time, an overblown sense of confidence is going to get you to be a kind of a dislikable person. And I'm not accusing you of being that, but I know that you have to do some balancing when it comes to that. And I know sometimes you underperform on confidence or sometimes you overperform on confidence. And there's kind of this area. And I just wonder like how you navigate this.
It's definitely a fine line to walk. It really is. So I'll tell you how I do it. So I've always been a confident guy. It's something that after I put some time in karate, I started, like I just told you guys, I walked into a room, I was okay, I know what's up. I know what I can do. And that's, like I said, it's an invaluable feeling you have. Now, how that translates to these videos is that I know what I'm teaching you guys. I know all that content is valid. What I'm showing you guys, well, actually, the comedy I show you guys, like I said, don't try that in the street, could get you killed. But the moves that I'm showing you guys, they're all are real. The spinning wheel kicks are real. Flying front snap kicks, those are real. Those right hands, landed one on you earlier today. Those are real. By the way, check out our skit. Me and Elijah just did a little reel just now. How to defend yourself against a hater. So, Elijah, you're not a hater.
Yeah, I'm biggest op.
Yeah, I love you, man. Yeah, thank you, dude. But I'll tell you guys what. As far as that confidence, you have to be very big. You have to put a smile on your face, and you have to be a very big, engaging personality. And some people, you say, how do you not get called a douche? I do. It happens. Sometimes people think that the personality is too big. But I always think, you know what? That's not my problem. That's their problem. If they came up to me on the street, we'd be having a conversation just like you and I are right now. Not too good for anybody, ever. You can't have that mentality. You can't be arrogant. You have to be so engaging. If people put you down, you just look at them and smile. Because when you're that confident in yourself and you have that internal strength, you don't need to. It makes no sense. So that's my biggest thing. You're just friendly to everyone. And I think people can pick up on that energy. And once they see, you're smiling, you're having a good time in the video, people don't want to criticize you. There's no need to. I mean, sure, you have that like 7-year-old kid every time that comes on your video and he's like, oh yeah, your mouth is open when you were talking. It's like, you could get punched in the mouth and you can break your jaw. Well, yeah, dude, I'm explaining what I'm doing to you back home on the camera. It's a comedy video. I mean, come on. I don't expect him to understand that.
Right.
You get viewers like that every once in a while. But when people understand that, you know what? This is pretty cool. Like, everyone here is laughing. They're all having a good time. Yeah, confidence is a real thing. But people, I think, enjoy that. They like seeing a person who's a little bit confident, a little edgy sometimes. Like, I feel like I'd say that's actually, it's not something you see every day, is it? You don't meet someone who's that, like, help me with my words here. You don't meet someone
who's like that pompous. Or that
yes. You don't meet someone like that every day. Most people are pretty, like, they're meek. They kind of just, like, their emotions never fluctuate. They're always just able, they're kind of just going through the motions day-to-day life. I feel like when someone sees someone that's really just living on the edge and engaging with everything around them to the absolute, like, being your true authentic self to the 10th degree, and keeping the main thing is, all these people like to say nowadays, that's a bachelorette trend. I feel like there's something to be said for just enjoying life. And I feel like people worry a lot and they go through life very tense and they get caught in the motions. And by kind of breaking out of that, it's almost like a jailbreak. People see that and they kind of want to follow you. So by being a little more confident, by being more engaged than other people, by doing things that maybe it's outside your comfort zone. I bet not a lot of you guys would go out right now and in front of 50 people start pulling out karate moves for a self-defense skit. But that's what gets views. You have to catch eyes somehow. And people think it's cringe until they see your channel. And then they look at your accolades and you're like, oh shoot, it's a sensei. You got to listen to him. Mm-hmm. So I hope that answers your question. It's a tough answer, honestly. That's very long, strained question, but I feel like the biggest thing you guys can do is just be yourself. You have to be congruent. But when I say be yourself, it's not you sitting on the couch just chilling, watching TV. That's not being yourself. Being yourself is being congruent with your values and who you are, but also bringing that to the 10th degree and contributing to the world and sharing yourself with others. I think people keep to themselves too much. And I feel like that's almost a disservice because I feel like we were made to be a part of a community. If you want to talk about like God's creation, but that's a whole different subject. So.
Yeah, well, I just think that when you talk about confidence, like, it is much more common that people are too meek. They're not enough. They're not pushing themselves past comfortability. Yeah. Like, they're not used to being uncomfortable.
And people look at you funny too when you do that.
And when you do it, I guess that is definitely the most important part of this conversation. Is how do I break into this confidence? How do I become more confident? That's definitely what more people are struggling with.
Yeah.
But there is a top end of this where you're too confident and you have to humble yourself. Yeah. You have to like go down. What do you do to like make sure you don't break that ceiling, or when you break that ceiling and you get too confident that you have to humble yourself?
It's a hard
like,
stuff.
What are some of those things that you do to like humble yourself, or some of those things that you know about yourself that are like, okay, I'm not everything, I'm just confident.
It happens a lot, actually. It's a very hard stop. I'm lucky that I have my twin brother. I have my mom and I have my dad, and I have a close group of friends already here, and they kind of tell me, okay, Matt, you're a confident guy, but tone it back a little bit. It's okay. It's okay. Let's just chill out for a couple minutes. And it's like, all right, you think about it and you realize it's okay to just be sometimes. We always talk about how you have to be 100%. And as long as you can just sometimes, like, if you break that barrier, right, all you have to do is just put a smile on your face and say, guys, I messed up. I'm sorry. Let's chill for a minute. And when I say chill, not sitting there looking around, not talking to anybody. You're listening. You're put in a reactive state. What I mean by that is when I make my content, I'm very proactive. I'm always producing. But I feel like if you break that ceiling, if you break that barrier, you have to kind of stop and just listen to other people for a minute. Listen to their input. Okay, you might have messed up here. Maybe you were in that conversation, you were a little too abrasive. Like, tone it down a little bit, tighten up. We always use that phrase, lock in. They always tell me, tighten up or lock in. Okay, I got you. And then from there, you really direct the conversation back to the other person. Because sometimes I'll get too caught up talking about my content, my plans, and what Sensei Matt's doing next. And realize, shoot, It's a hard stop. Sorry, I'm just really passionate about that.
No, I think it's, yeah.
No, this is what I tell the people.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just really confident. I'm not confident, but I am confident.
You're passionate about it. Like,
there you go.
You care about it.
I'm getting caught up now. Yeah. I'm very passionate about it. And what are you doing? Like, do you want to be a producer? Do you want to make content? Like, how could I help you? That's really what it's all about. So I hope that answers your question a little better.
And that's really good too. You should practice not only hearing criticism, but implementing the things that people say.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So if you find that like people have told you things to do and you've rejected the last 30, that should tell you something about overblown confidence.
Absolutely.
Like you should be able to point to something within the last 10 criticisms that are like, they said that, I agreed, and I did it. Because if the last 50 people were wrong, it might just be you. And so I think that is really important to just like sometimes think like, okay, what are they telling me? Like I need to just listen to somebody just for 1 second.
That's it. You know, there's something to be said, like we were talking about, you have to put yourself out there, you have to be proactive, but there is a really good lesson in just sitting there and just taking a step back and listening and just listening to the people around you.
Well, it's hard because as a content creator, you have to push past so much. Like there's so much startup time, and then you feel successful, but in the grand scheme of what success is, you're not at all.
Yeah.
Like in the essence of like, especially like with my channel, I feel very successful as a podcaster. I have like 150 subscribers. That's not success. Like in terms of what success has been known to anybody. But to me, it's like, I'm just happy that I've done this for a very long time. But I don't have the confidence to be like, I am a successful podcaster.
You know
That's not what that means.
I'll tell you what, last night I was on Instagram for a minute and I pulled up my reach and I was like, okay, 2,500 followers are doing pretty good. And then I'm like, okay, I wonder how my girl's Alana doing. Alana Springsteen, guys, she's like one of my favorite country artists. Okay, she's 295,000 followers. She has all these subscriptions. I'm like, dang. Okay, she's really lighting it up. I wonder what Dustin Lynch is up to. Dustin Lynch is my all-time favorite country artist. 1.2 million followers.
Yeah.
How'd these people get it? Come on now.
Well, and it's crazy because there are some people in my school who have 5,000 followers on Instagram, and they don't make content. They just are a person. You know, and that's crazy to me too. But it's a different game, and people don't understand that. I guess when you're looking at confidence and you're pushing through, like, how do you realistically look at where you're at, but also find the motivation to just like keep pushing forward? Does that come from the fact that you just enjoy doing this?
Yeah.
Or is there like a goal that you're really motivated by?
Both. Number one is when you're on the street or you're in class and kids start pulling up your video, like, I'm not even kidding. I'm sitting in class and all of a sudden the kid 2 seats in front of me just gets my video on his reel, on his feed. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's what keeps you doing it. So the followers actually don't even mean a whole lot because a lot of people do consume my content. And if I look at my engagement, my analytics, it's about maybe 5% who actually follow. And that's average. That's like normal. And one thing I will say is that people get too caught up in followers because that's just a number on the screen. There's something to be said for subscribers on YouTube because that gets you closer to monetization. But as far as Instagram, it doesn't mean anything. I always keep shooting for 10K, but what does 10K really mean? Because you don't get watch time on Instagram. You have sponsorships and brands, content that you're creating for those brands. So it doesn't matter your following, it matters your engagement and your click-through rate. And that is pretty good. So if I can keep expanding that and spreading my name across campus and getting to that next level, which, yeah, I would like 10,000. That'd be really cool. But do I need it? No. And I guess one other part of that too, Elijah, is when I say how much I enjoyed making that content, I don't care if no one watches the next video. I don't care if I only get 5,000 views on the next video. It doesn't matter because I just enjoyed that process so much that I'm sure the next one will and the next one. And it's like a never-ending process where I'm like, you know what? Okay, that video didn't do so well. Why did that happen? It goes back to, again, kind of humbling yourself, hard stopping, just listening. It's not listening to a person, you're listening to the analytics. Too many people make content endlessly without looking at their engagement rates, their analytics, their click-through rates, and how they can actually use their keywords and what they're actually showing the viewer in their hook and actually the words they're using in the video to be pushed out further into the algorithm. Not a lot of people look into that. If you can do that and keep an engaging personality, keep an engaging content, keep putting that energy out there, it will come back to you. It has to.
Yeah. And this is really interesting. You're talking a lot about like specific marketing decisions that you're making to appeal to an algorithm. What are some of these things that you do?
Yeah.
Like, what are some of those stats like that you could help somebody who's trying to do this on Instagram?
Yeah, I'm going to pull
What
up
are some
my
of these
Instagram right
things?
now real quick. I'll show you guys. I know you guys can't see it at home, but I'll read it over to you. So essentially the first thing you should always look at is you need to have a professional account. That's the most important thing. So you can do that in Instagram. It's very easy. You just go to Account Center and you click little toggle tab and you become a professional certified account. So that means you can see your insights, which involves accounts reached, accounts engaged, total followers, and content you shared. And they'll have the dates listed. They'll have the percentages of how many people you reached. I have, for example, right now, I just told you guys, in the last 20 days, I've reached 2,360 accounts. And I've only put out about 4 videos. And there's been a lot of tests and exams, you guys, lately, so my apologies. But 11% of those were followers that actually engaged with the content. 89% of which are not followers. That's normal. That's completely normal. So your impressions are at around 10,000. That's where they should be. So once you get to your content type, you should always be producing reels, you guys. Reels are the #1 content producing machine. Posts, they do all right, but where it's at is always in the reels. Reels are what engages people. And it's also because not only will you pop up on the Explore page, but as they're scrolling through Reels, just like TikTok, they're going to run into yours. So if I look at the reached audience, it'll show me where my content's being engaged. Right now, I'm at 50% Ames, Iowa. The other half is spread around like my hometown because I love you guys. They're still with me. They still watch me.
Fans.
And yeah, one thing I'll say, you guys, is you have to go ahead and say, okay, my content's being engaged with in Ames, Iowa. How do I make sure that it keeps getting pushed out to them? Well, when I put a video out, I'm going to tag Iowa State as my location. And then you have to use the keywords. So what keywords looks like, it's very minimal with the content you're producing. So what I mean by that is that I'm not going to have a million words in my title. It's just going to be, for example, the last one, Sensei Matt video gone wrong. Cops called. That's it. But what sells with that is I do hashtag self-defense, hashtag Iowa State, hashtag Iowa State Cyclones, and then usually I'll tag one of my buddies in it. But what that does is that self-defense, sometimes they'll put hashtag funny or, that you always have the For You page tag there. What those tags do, obviously, it brings you into the algorithm. And really, for my target audience, it's going to be funny, and it's going to be 18 to 36-year-olds, and it's going to be in Ames, Iowa. How do I do that? I tag Iowa State. I have my demographic, hashtag Iowa State Cyclones, 18 to probably 22-year-olds, but it is 18 to 36-year-olds, which is kind of funny. And then number 3 is I have my comedy self-defense. So hashtag self-defense. Anyone who's remotely interested in those 3 topics, I would say that mostly it's not even the self-defense. It's just the Ames, Iowa, and that age bracket. Because the kids around, they do love seeing something flashy. They like, if you walk on the street and you start pulling out some karate spinning wheel kicks, people will watch. There's just something about it where it's like, that's a skill. Like if you watch someone do a backflip, how can you not be impressed? It's the same thing. So if you can go ahead and combine those 3, and then #1 thing to you guys is your hook is the most important part. Every video, what do? How to win a fight with how to defend yourself with you always do a clap in the beginning. It gets a viewer, they're just scrolling, clap right in front of them. See this crazy dude in a tank top with a Sensei Matt t-shirt on screaming at you. What's going on here? They watch. And you got to get right into the point. You got to throw something right away. So you, how to win a fight with a spinning wheel kick, and then you just throw that wheel kick right away. Because they only will have, at most, a 2-second retention rate. That's it. So your hook has to be right to the point, and they have to actually be caught off guard with it. A lot of people say, oh, you have to have a smooth hook, smooth transition. No, it can be very abrupt sometimes. It should be very abrupt. They're like, what is this? That's the #1 question they have to be thinking. What is this? One of the videos we filmed out in the Friley courtyard recently, it was courtyard self-defense. I was sleeping on the couch, My buddies come up right away. Matt, it's time for class. They throw me off the couch. But how do you make that more engaging? Well, as I'm sleeping there, you start making the snoring sounds. And then you add the Z's in CapCut to it. And they're like, what is this guy doing on the couch? And all of a sudden he gets thrown off the couch. That video did like 3,000 views in a day. It's because of the hook. It's always the hook and where you're tagging. Location is very important where you're tagging because that's going to be your target audience, and it really encompasses a demographic. My demographic right now is college kids and name's Iowa. But I'll tell you guys what, you're the first one to hear this. It's kind of insider breaking news. I'm spreading to every college in the United States with Sensei Matt content. I said, how can I scale this larger? Well, I got an extra couple hundred followers from Iowa State so far. Obviously, Iowa State's going to keep progressing. Right now, I've just marketed myself to the freshman class. Next, I'm going to be putting myself on the sophomore class. Well, how do you do that? You also tag the year in school of your target audience. So I usually do hashtag Iowa State Cyclones 2028. Now I'm doing class 2027. I also use Snapchat. How do you use Snapchat? Well, you go in their community stories, and you just post a quick little video with a link to your channel, and people will go and funnel through that. I used to just put a thumbnail and the link, but I realized that it's a lot more engaging when I put the reel in there. And then it's like, okay, they have to click through it. Yeah, maybe like 3 snaps, and then you have your link, but they're like, okay. Some people will stay and watch because of that hook. And then you have more followers. Now, one thing I was going to say is I have a bunch of my buddies from high school. They aren't going to Iowa State. They're at all these other places around the globe. So what can they do for me? Well, hey guys, how's it going? Long time no speak. Sensei Matt content's back. Hope you're doing well, but hey man, we're trying to spread around the world now. We're trying to get to all these different colleges in the United States. So like my buddy at Purdue, U of I, Minnesota, sending them that little highlight reel we made. Put that highlight reel on, put the link to my channel, and see what the people think. And also tag the location too, because that's important. And then from there, they funnel back to my Instagram. So I don't just use Instagram. And I think people make a mistake about using one platform. Oh, I got to go really big on just TikTok. You have to use each platform to funnel. You should have one main platform, which mine is Instagram. And then that funnels. You have funnels like Snapchat, or you have funnels like Instagram. Oh, not Instagram, sorry. Like Twitter or TikTok. I don't use TikTok. I use it as a funnel sometimes. And I bring it back to my Instagram. So that's one thing that people have to realize is you should have one main channel, but all the other ones you still have to be active there to funnel that content down. So yes, that's where it's at.
And this is wildly interesting. I think to me, I have not done a good job of isolating the people who should be listening. Like I haven't done a good job of isolating my location as like Ames, Iowa, which I think is super important. I think one of the effective things, and this is what I found when I was making skit videos in high school, is interacting with the community and then proving that you're involved in the community. So I think one of the reasons why, so you did that dorm defense video,
dorm self-defense,
which I think was really successful. And I think one of the aspects of that is people see the location and they're like, what dorm is this? And then they see that it's Friley and they're like, oh, I live there. You know what I mean? And there's this instant like connection. And it's probably the same thing with the courtyard one too. And so when you're doing it in locations that are very obvious for people to like assess and be like, oh, I go to this place. Like, I feel like that does so much. I've been relying on getting people that are from here so that they know that I'm located here. So like people who know you are going to know that I am a Iowa State podcast because these are 2 Iowa State students. But I have not done nearly a good enough job at like pinning my location is here.
And that's okay, you guys. And I think one thing that you have to realize is that you're not expected to. That's okay. I feel like a lot of things, it just takes time. So the more content that I produce, the more I realize, okay, I have these tools that are available to me that I can be using. So I think a lot of it is actually just exploring your platform that you're on. Mine's Instagram. So I'm always looking at the new tools that they're releasing to content creators. You have a professional dashboard that they give you, and it shows you your engagement. That's what we were just looking at. And they give you certain tools that you can use. And then I feel like YouTube's a big source. I learned all this on YouTube and just time doing it. So I didn't know anything about that 5 months ago when I started. This is relatively new. I started Sensei Matt in like May. Spring break is when I started my content. So it's been a pretty cool rise so far, and we're just looking to keep the momentum going. So,
And it just started. I think one of the issues is that people hear this and it's kind of ridiculous for them that you're putting this much effort for just little self-defense videos. And I think that's a frustrating perspective to have because people consume other people's content. And all of the famous people who are doing content have done this research too. Like they've looked at this stuff, they understand how to be successful.
yeah.
But on the outside, it just looks like, oh, they're successful because they're just funny. You know what I mean? Or they're just like naturally funny. But so much work goes into all of these other things.
You know what? I think if you've worked on yourself as a person, your personality, it really shines through. And I feel like a lot of that doesn't come from content creation at all. It comes from just going out into real life and just building a resume of experiences and meeting new people and getting new experiences. And then from there, you're able to translate that sense of self that you've developed into the camera, and the viewers can understand that. And that gives you the confidence to keep pursuing and keep going. And I guess we talk about like walking that fine line. Well, how do you walk that fine line? We talked about it. You're confident, but you're also humble in the sense of you're just friendly to everybody. You're not too good for anyone. You can't be arrogant because that never works out for anybody. And I think one thing that's important too is we talked about listening, just having a hard stop, listening to the people around you and saying, okay, they kind of, sometimes your head can get a little big just because it's like, oh, this is really, really doing well so far. I feel like people judge themselves way too much off. Everyone's running their own race, and I feel like when you judge yourself where you are compared to someone who's been doing it for like a year. So, for example, if I was to judge my 2,500 follower fan base after 5 months, someone who's been doing it for 12 months, how is that fair at all? That is so unfair to yourself as an individual and as a content producer. So I feel like you have to almost look at absolute value, if you want to call it that. Okay, I've only been doing it for 5 months, but I have 2,500. They've been doing it for what, 12 months? They have 10,000. Okay, how do I make that happen? I'll be there. I'll probably pass that. But right now, this is where I'm at. I'm pretty sure, oh, what were they at 5 months? Oh, like 1,200? Okay. You know, it's like there's little things that you have to keep in mind with that.
And I super agree with that last point. Although I actually think I disagree with your first point about working on yourself to become an influencer. And I think that that's really important. I'm the most work on yourself person that you can be.
Yeah.
I feel like when it comes to becoming an influencer, there are like 2 break it points. There are 2 points where if you can't do these things, you're probably not going to be successful. So you have to have a personality that's engaging, enjoyable, that can effectively do what you want to do. So you're doing comedy, you need to be funny. Absolutely. Or like a sociable personality. That's step 1. Step 2 is you have to be able to consistently make content. So you have to be creative, you have to be able to make ideas, and then you have to do a lot of the algorithmic research that you've done to like actually make content. I feel like people break much more often on not being able to actually make content. Like, yes, they're a funny person, but they are not willing to stream for 5 hours a day. But they're a funny person, but they're not willing to do that, or they're not willing to research.
That's part of it, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, both of those are, I think, essential. But I feel like most people have the personality to be a good influencer. But I just don't think most people have the perseverance or the grit to actually do it, if that makes sense.
And that's something you learn, too. I think people, you say, oh, are you born with grit? I feel like there are people who are certainly, I'd like to say, yeah, I was born with it, but it's something I had to hone, too. You know, it's like once you train every day and you build that discipline, you're always in the gym, you're always at the dojo training, Sensei Matt. There's something that gets built up inside of you that's like, you know what, it's just another day. This is just what I do. And you can't complain. You just got to keep grinding towards it. And I feel like that in itself is what does break people, like you said. But that just means that they never learned that. It's a skill. It's just as much a skill as it is a trait. And I feel like that's overlooked too often.
Yeah, and I think that's super true too. Like, it's totally understandable why people like that's the metric that they struggle with. But it kind of makes sense too. I think a lot of people are lured into content making because they're like, I'm a funny guy, I could be a comedian. You know what I mean? And then they go out and they bomb on stage doing a set, and then they don't come back. And it's like every successful comedian did that. They're also funny, but they had this X factor, which I've established to be some sort of perseverance or some sort of like coming up from that. And I think it's really interesting hearing you talk about like stats, and I think that's so important.
Oh,
But
thanks,
people
dude.
don't, I feel like people don't necessarily associate that with the content game. They just assume that you're good at content because you're funny and engaging. But
Mm.
that's why you're good at content, but you're also good at content because you're willing to research,
Yeah.
you're willing to learn, and you're willing to grind.
There's a whole nother world behind just making the content. It's about how you're marketing yourself. And I feel like a lot of that's business too. It's business analytics. You're looking at those analytics and you're trying to be as precise as possible and as efficient with creating your videos. Because you don't want to make 100 videos with no reach. It's like you're beating a dead horse. It makes
Yeah.
no sense. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that you're effective in what you're pursuing. And I feel like one thing that you also have to do too is get a little angry sometimes. And when we talk about grit, it's like, okay, I'm pushing everything to the extreme. I'm doing everything I can. Why isn't this working out? A lot of people just accept it. But there's something about me I just can't accept. Like, I cannot just sit there. It'll just eat at me. Like, for anything in life, not just my content, like, why didn't that video take off? It's just whatever. It's just anything that I put my mind to or look to pursue and it doesn't go my way, it'll eat at me if I can't figure out why that is and correct it. I just have to. And if I can't fix it, oh man, it's tough. It's really tough. So it's one of those things, Elijah, where for me, that's always been a big struggle. It's like I always am exponentially trying to increase in any way I can because I hate being there. And I feel like not a lot of people have enough self-respect to understand that, where they're like, you know what? I should be successful doing this. Why am I not successful right now? What is going wrong and what can I do right? And I feel like a lot of people just accept it, but instead I do my research and try to figure out how can I make this better? What went wrong? What could I do right next time?
Yeah, I think this is so wildly interesting. I think it's so cool that I finally got someone on here who has a voice in making content, because I think when I talk to people, they totally misunderstand what it takes to get, per se, like 130 followers. Like hundreds of hours of work.
It does.
You know
It's
what I
crazy.
mean? Like, I've been doing this for two years now, and it's like the amount of work it takes to get, even like to meet you. You know what I mean? Like, to increase your chances of meeting a person that you want to have on there. Like, that takes work. And
Luck
that's
is work.
unrelated.
Luck is work.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
wait. That's actually such a good point. Luck is actually work.
Yeah.
Although, and I can't, I'm always trying to balance the skills because I can't credit myself for the success that I have necessarily.
Sure.
There are lots of other cogs that happen in the field too. There are lots of other things that make things successful too.
Yeah.
So I won't take all the credit for it, but I think it's so interesting. If there's one thing that I want people to understand about like making content is like, look at the spiel you just did about one section of analytics on your Instagram. And then it was like, okay, here are the things that I learned. Here are the things that I do. Here are the 8 hashtags that I put on this video so that it reached the target. You know what I mean? Stuff like this. People just do.
You have to be so
think about
specific.
this.
It's the little things that make a difference. And one thing about me is I'm a huge UFC fan. I've always been a fan since I was a little kid, and they've always inspired me. But you have to have role models. And the UFC fighters are my role models. Their content they produce are. The content that UFC produces, I take a lot from. So I'll watch these like highlight reels and these promos they make, and I go, how can I implement this into my own channel? Okay, I'm a big country fan, country music. So I'll follow, like, not on Instagram because, you know, I'm very stingy with my follower count as a professional creator, but I'll go ahead and like watch some of the content from like my favorite artists. And it's okay, what are they doing to engage their audience and like not only the crowd, because obviously they're always performing, but when they are making these videos and they are being filmed on stage, what are they doing that's different? You know, and what I mean by that is, how does that apply to Sensei Matt? Well, when I'm creating a Sensei Matt reel and I have a huge audience around me, you have to engage everybody. That's one thing that attention flows where energy goes. And if everyone in that crowd is cheering that's why I'm not kidding, Elijah, that's why all these rock stars, these country artists and musicians are so like popular and famous. Because when you get a whole crowd in a stadium cheering for you, and people see that online, like I said, all that energy transfers. So if you can engage everybody in that room as you're creating content, that's another thing I learned. That's where it's at too. Because I feel like energy is looked at in a weird way where it's just something that you hold yourself. No, energy flows to everybody. People can feel it. And even through Instagram, people go all the time, Sensei Matt, what's your aura? You feel my energy because I'm putting that much into it. And I feel like not a lot of people are willing to do that. But you have to have role models too. So I'm always looking at UFC's content, and they're always upping their game. And it's very impressive, their production style and what they do. And obviously my comedy self-defense reels, it's not necessarily the same. It's a similar target audience for sure, 18 to 34-year-olds. But it's much similar when you look at their marketing strategies, like how they're reaching them. They use the same exact spiel that I went on, same exact. And they also are really good at creating like PSAs, like public service announcements. So that's how they're using their other platforms. And their main platform is YouTube. But it's really not. Their main platform is ESPN Plus, the pay-per-views. They funnel you in. So UFC, what they like to do is they use Instagram and the news. So they use their Instagram and news headlines because they're always in the news. You look up UFC, you'll see a million headlines. But those always funnel back to Instagram. And then Instagram funnels to YouTube because they'll give like a quick little highlight reel on their video. And then they'll link you to the full fight on the YouTube page. And then the YouTube page will have the link to the pay-per-view. Then on the YouTube page, they'll also have the post-fight interview. They'll have the walkout. They have everything but the fight to make you really want to go watch that fight. And then they make you pay for it. Obviously, you don't pay for it. There's something called illegal streaming service. Yeah. But, hey, man, it works.
Right.
So what they're doing, though, is very interesting. I feel like just watching, like everyone here watches social media. But you can totally consume social media while still learning something. I feel like they could talk about brain rot. Yeah, a lot of stuff on TikTok, I don't use TikTok, but it's like brain rot. It really is. But why is it so wildly popular? That's something that everyone, when they watch that, they should be thinking to themselves, what made this, if they want to be a content producer, what makes this so wildly popular? What did this guy do? What did Hoktoa girl do that made her so famous? What was it? You know what it was? It was her energy. There was something about her with that accent, fitting the perfect frame at the right exact time, jumping into that interview, going on her way, that made people want to follow her. You know who followed her? It was Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor follows 1,000 people, and he has millions and millions of followers. 1,000 people. That ratio is like 1 to 0.0001. You followed her. Well, how did she make that happen? People, yeah, like I said, attention goes where energy flows. And the way that she, in that, what was it, a 6-second clip, her friend was being interviewed, she just hopped on there. And I've only seen the clip so many times, but I took so much from that just watching her. It's like, she was unapologetically herself. Was she her to the 10th degree? Yeah, she was. You never meet a girl on the street just saying, yeah, you give her the hot dog. Mm-hmm. You never see that. No girl in her right mind walks around doing that. She did. She probably does do that. She was probably congruent with herself. She had her little twangy accent. That's part of her. She didn't try to tighten up for the camera. She was just her. She went on her way and doing her own thing. People wanted to follow that. So that's one thing too. There's a lot of psychological factors that go into making the videos too, and how you're presenting yourself to people. And I think people don't realize that. They don't understand how their image looks. I was very hesitant to come on this podcast and talk about Sensei Matt's content because Sensei Matt's a character, but I'm also a producer, so I have to. But people don't think enough about how they're being, I think it can be unhealthy sometimes if you're too worried about how you're being perceived by others. And that's why I have people like my buddy Jaden, my best friend back home. He always goes and tells me, he says, the Miles Morales, I'm going to do my own thing. That's our thing. We always, he's like, you're doing your own thing? So, yes, sir. So we always check in. He's one of those people that just listening to, he doesn't say a lot, but when he does, there's a lot to be extracted from it. And that's like having those people around you that kind of keep your head from not getting too big, keeping you humble and in the right headspace. And that's where it's at. So I've had a lot of friends that helped me come up. And that's cool too, because a lot of these guys who are in my circle, they're the guys who you see on the channel doing the videos with me. And they're part of it just as much as I am. And one thing I always tell the people I produce with, because this is very true, is this is your video just as much as it is mine. You you might be the featured guest in my video, but we're making this together. So if you're not comfortable with doing anything, let me know. If you would want to add anything, please let me know. They always have really good input. Like, we made a skit beforehand. You had really good input. And if you can go ahead and just, like I said, again, this goes back to listening. I didn't do a good job explaining like how to just sit there and listen and go from a proactive to a reactive state, and not a reactive state and being like spaz or anything, but reactive, like, okay, how do I implement that? Like, they're telling me, okay, quiet down a little bit, just relax, like take a breath and just chill for a minute, just be, because like I told you, I always feel like I have to be 100%. And when you're just chilling, doesn't mean you're not yourself. You're still yourself, but you're just taking it in, just relaxing. I feel like if you're too much in people's face sometimes, if you're too like abrasive, like sometimes the personality gets too big. And now, I don't think there's something wrong with that, but you have to match your environment and the communication style that's in front of you. So it's just a little bit of like, they talk about EQ, SQ, all that stuff, like social intelligence, emotional intelligence. That always beats just intellectual intelligence. It really does. There's actually a study I was reading the other day, and social emotional intelligence actually 98% of the time beats intellectual intelligence in the workforce. You look at these Fortune 500 CEOs, it's because they score highest on SQ and EQ and average on IQ. And you think about stress management too, it makes sense. How you work your relationships, your net worth is your net work. That's one thing that needs to be kept in mind too, is as you're making this content, you could be the most like brainiac content producer. But if you can't network with people, if you can't work on collaborations, if you can't actually understand what sells, like imagine this. I'm sure there has to be like the coolest self-defense, like comedy self-defense reel out there that I didn't make. There has to be like one that's like crazy good out there that some dude made in like maybe Arkansas. But he had no idea how to market it because he didn't know what people were looking for. He didn't have that social intelligence, if you want to call it that, and putting himself in someone else's shoes to say, okay, if this pops up on their feed, how can I go ahead and market it to them? What's my demographic? What does that look like? If they don't have that, and also one thing that goes into that is like your traits too, emotional and social intelligence. So what I mean by that is like grit. That's a trait. That's not an intellectual trait. That's part of your personality, which is like EQ, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be your due diligence to go ahead and research all those different like intricacies of how you're going to reach that audience. So if you don't have those traits, man, it's over. As my buddy Jaden goes, it's Jover.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff covered there. I think one of the interesting things is I listened to, I think it was like Joe Rogan or somebody interviewed Mr. Beast. And if you want to be content brained, you need to listen to this interview. It is one of the most incredible, like, you can tell that this guy has only thought about content for his entire life.
Yeah.
And if you want to see like what success looks like, there was no way that this guy was not going to be the most popular YouTuber on the planet. Even 20 years ago, if you would have interviewed him then, you just would be like, there's no way. And so I think that vulnerability to talk about the intricacies of like actually making content, like you doing this on this podcast, is so interesting to me. And I think it's exactly what you should be doing with the knowledge that you've accrued. It's very noble. And I get that it kind of hurts your character, maybe. I don't think so, but it could. Yeah. Like somebody could see it as inauthentic. Somebody could see it as misconstrued in any other way. And so you did take a risk of doing this. But I think that like being able to talk about this is so wildly important for people to just understand what you're doing and what it takes to actually do what you're doing. And I think it's so awesome that you came out here and talk about this too.
Absolutely,
so,
man.
I'm very interested to see how you market some of these ideas or some of the stuff in general, because like I said, it's just not something that you do,
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I was just mentioning how we spread to Iowa State's campus already. And I started with a freshman class, and I'm moving to sophomore. Then I'm working at junior and then senior. But senior doesn't have a whole lot because their Snapchat story only has like a couple hundred community members, which is actually crazy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, Elijah. As I'm progressively working up that pyramid, one thing that I'm also doing is, like I said, now that I have like that base of the freshman class, that engagement helps push me to the sophomores and the juniors and seniors. So you have to establish yourself with a small demographic. I said 18 to 34-year-olds, like high school students' names. That's very big still. So you have to start with maybe just 18 and 19-year-olds, freshman class, and then you build up. But as I'm building up, you have to have short-term and long-term goals. And the short-term goal is, okay, now you move to the sophomore class, and you move to the junior class. But as I'm doing that, I'm starting to go ahead and market myself to other colleges. So that's how you scale. You don't scale like just a ladder. It's a pyramid, and the pyramids have different sections. And what I mean by that is the middle section is the freshman class, and then I have sophomores and juniors. But then I also have Minnesota College, and I also have U of I, and I also have Purdue, and I also have like Illinois Urbano, Champaign, like all these different colleges that my friends are going to. They're being added to it as well at the same time. So it's not like a linear process. You slowly start introducing yourself and inoculating people to Sensei Matt's content one at a time. Like you want to one at a time. It's like, okay, one video at a time. Put it on their story. Okay. And next week, put the next video on. And the next video. But you spread yourself to different communities all at once. But you don't put all your content out at once on those communities. You just do one video at a time. I have 60 videos I can throw on the community. I'm not doing that. I'm just putting one out every week. Probably 2 out a week, let's be honest. And then that continues to compound on itself. And before you know it, you're like catering to 4 different class years in like 5 different colleges. And we're trying to go all around the United States with colleges now. So I just finished my Sensei Matt highlight reel. It's called Sensei Matt's Best Hits. It's going to be up later this week. And that video is going to be pushed out to all these different colleges. And obviously right now we have like Sensei Matt lore that's starting, where I just got arrested, you guys. And it's kind of funny because my grandma actually called me that night. And she goes, Matt, what did you do? I said, what are you talking about? She's like, why are you in jail? I was like, no, I'm fine. It's a Sensei Matt reel. I said, oh, she watches all my content because she follows me. So she has to, right? It's her favorite grandson, Sensei Matt, making this content. She has to. So she watches all my videos and she'll like call me and talk about it. And she's like, what did you do? Did someone bail you out? I said, well, there were people who were offering to bail me out, which was super sweet. Thank you guys. But yeah, Elijah, it's just one of those things where I would say that it's important to go ahead and have a community that is very specialized and understands the story. So if someone was to see my content right away, like, so now we're doing a prison saga. All right. And now I got arrested because my buddy Lex, I was doing a tutorial video and I accidentally spinning wheel kicked him in the face and he died. And then we carried him, put him behind the couch. My buddy Jerron called the cop. Wyatt comes out with a gun and chases us. And then we choke the cop out and we run away. And then the cops end up catching us later, and then we're put in jail. Next video is court self-defense. Then we're doing like day in the prison life self-defense, then a prison breakout self-defense. If someone saw my content, they wouldn't understand like what I do. But it's also important for that base you've established to understand like you almost have a saga. So I feel like there's definitely something to be said for having general content for the like masses, but then you also have for your like very hardcore followers, you have specialized content that they can really engage with because people like, you have to keep them engaged. And if people have been watching your content for like 5 months and keep seeing these self-defense reels, they're great, but it's kind of the same skit with new objects every time. So you got to change the storylines a little bit. And you're also, as a producer, a storyteller. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. You're telling a story. Every skit I do, there's a story behind it. Usually it's the same one. Someone says something weird to me, someone grabs me or something, and then I have to do a crazy stunt, knock them out, and then tell them like, comment, share, and follow. Usually pick the guy up and you guys tag them or whatever, but it's just, you have to make sure that, okay, maybe that story is getting a little bland. How do I introduce a little bit of spice or flavor into it? Well, right now it's Sensei Matt's prison self-defense. So that's where we're at.
I can't wait to see where when you break out of jail and
it's gonna be a good one,
crazy moves you do.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find a place to a prison cell
to like actually do like jail.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird
to see, and that's crazy too. Because didn't you have to like You had to meet with like a cop to take that picture
I
of like you
did.
getting arrested and
I
like
did. And I'll tell you guys some insider information too. I had never got cuffs put on me. Everyone asks me, how in the world did you get to put your cuffs on you? I didn't. We took a perfect camera angle where it looked like I did. He couldn't put his handcuffs on me. So I went with my Walmart Warriors and we got some handcuffs. It was $3. They were fake handcuffs. And I was like, can you put these on me? He said, no, they might mistake it as my handcuffs, but we can pretend. Okay, let's do it. So we couldn't take a video because unfortunately the ISUPD is very strict on that. We could do as a picture. Put it at the end of the video. The suspense sound effect. To be continued curtains over at the Looney Tunes. So
yeah.
that's how I ended up working out in the production. Actually, it was edited quite nicely. So I do all the editing, I do all the filming, I do all the production. One thing that's tough is people talk about how hard it is to always have your schedules in line. But one thing that's super nice is being here on college campus. All my buddies pretty much live in the same dorm as me. So hey guys, who's free Friday night? Let's go film a quick video. It'll take 15 minutes and we usually can get a bunch done, so it's really cool. So it's nice to have a really close vicinity. And when I say I've been doing Sensei Matt for 5 months, it's only really been 3 months of real content creation. 2 months in the summer, we didn't do anything because we were so busy packing for college. We were all spread out. One buddy would have orientation this week, and then the next week the other guy would be gone. So it's really tough to get like that production crew all together in one space, especially because we live like 45 minutes apart at times because it's such a big area. But now that we're here at Iowa State, I have a bunch of buddies now, and we're like, okay, guys, let's go do this. So it's pretty cool.
How many hours a week would you say you spend everything, like researching, making videos, posting them, recording them, managing, working on this stuff?
Okay, so I spend 2 hours a week making the videos, editing them, and looking at my algorithm. Not a lot of time. I don't need to. If I just sit there and stare at the numbers, I get bored as hell. I can't do that. I know what the numbers are. That's all that matters. Like you only need like 10 minutes to look at your numbers. You'll remember them. And what it really comes down to is ideating and thinking, okay, what's the next video going to look like? So if I told you how much time I think about that, that's a lot more. I couldn't tell you. It'll just pop into my mind. I'll be sitting in econ. I'll be like, yeah, supply and demand, that's cool. What's the next Sensei Matt video going to look like? What are we going to do? And then I start coming up. I go in crazy land for a minute. People are like, how do you do this? Like, you think in the fourth dimension, don't you? So, yeah, sometimes. I'll just think of these crazy whack ideas. Like, what could really, like, spice the viewer's attention? What could really get them engaged? And usually it's pretty easy for me because I'm a very, like, kind of loud, big energy, engaging person. So it's kind of natural for me. But I feel like for other people who don't have that ability, they kind of just have to get out of their comfort. And before they even go and start producing content, they just have to go and start engaging with people on a daily basis before they even think about making a channel. There's the amount of conversations and just meeting strangers that I had before making my content. It's countless. Like, what I mean by that is that you have to put yourself out there and you have to get comfortable doing that over and over again before you can be comfortable putting yourself on the internet for millions of people to see. So after doing that for so many years in high school, I was like, yeah, this is pretty easy. I got this in the bag. Now, one thing I want to say is as far as how much time I spend like engaging, like overall with my audience, a lot. Like I will go ahead and every day I spend at least probably half an hour meeting like new people that come up, hey, you're Sensei Matt, right? And we just shoot the shit for a while. And it's really cool. And that goes back to not having too big of a head. So you listen to them. You don't talk about yourself the whole time. That's something I had to learn too. My buddy Jaden will tell you all about it. But it's to not be called a douche, you have to say, so what's up with you, man? Tell me a bit about yourself. Do you want to create content? Yeah, could I help you in any way? That's where it's at. That's what I was trying to say earlier. I hope that got across. I think it did, but just to clarify that a little more. And it also comes down to one thing that's important is people tell you how important it is to engage in communities when you're creating content, and it is to put your content in the community. But you'll never see me on Instagram threads, ever. You won't see me putting Twitter threads out, ever. Because that's not what you sell. So UFC fighters, they have to do that because they're selling their personality and their fighting skills. So they're going to talk shit to each other on Twitter as much as they can. I don't do that. I'm not going on Twitter. I'm not going on Instagram Reels, on Instagram Threads. I put my Instagram Reels out because it makes no sense for me. That's not my image. It's not who I am. I'm not going to go on Threads with a hot take and get Sensei Matt canceled. That makes no sense whatsoever. What does make sense, Elijah, is me going ahead and putting my content out and using Snapchat as a platform. That's my community I'm involved in. And say, hey guys, Sensei Matt video just uploaded. Go check it out. And then sometimes if the video is short enough, if it's under 20 seconds, 25 seconds, then I'll post the whole thing. If it's anything over that, I just put the thumbnail and send it over. So yeah, it's good. And one thing that's funny too is one thing you have to realize too is how much you're putting in, how much emphasis you're putting on each individual platform. Because my views are actually lowering on Instagram because I'm so heavy on Snapchat right now in this community stories. So you'll watch the whole video on Snapchat and they don't care to click that link to go, they'll follow you, but they don't care to watch the video necessarily because they already saw it on Snapchat. So they don't need to. And now it's funny too because I have a lot of I call them anonymous followers. They don't follow me. They just watch all my content. So they know when all my videos drop because they see it on the story and then they go to my page because I can see the external link taps and how they got to my page. So many people see me on the story. They go to my page and they watch all my videos, but they don't follow. And I think it's because people get upset and think it's personal that I don't follow them back.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just as a creator account, you can't do that. So,
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, since now we're running a little bit out of time, but I'd like to give this last opportunity for you to kind of summarize some of the stuff that you talked about or said, or just give one final message that you think the viewers, will want to know. But this is really your platform to kind of close us out on this episode.
Absolutely, you guys. So, Elijah, I think when we look back, you guys will see me in 10 years down the line and say, wow, he started there. He started with pretty much a couple thousand followers. He got there. Trust me, guys, it'll happen. This goes back to the fine line between being confident and being arrogant. I just know that the amount of work I'm willing to put in, I'll be there. And just because it's not work to me. No one can beat the guy no one can win a race against the guy who just enjoys running, right? You can't do that. So I'll just be doing this until I'm 45. I don't care. I'm going to keep making content, usually 2 videos a week. If you actually do the math, 2 times 52, that's 104 videos a year. 104 videos a year? Wow. Okay, what about the next 10 years? That's 1,000 videos, 1,040 videos. No one can keep up with that content production rate. And I think that's one thing too, is you have to learn how to be efficient. Because I told you it takes 2 hours for me to do everything. It used to take a lot longer than 2 hours, but I just got really good at editing very quickly. I got really good at knowing exactly what tags I wanted to put where. I used to have to spend forever doing my keyword research and figuring out what sells where. But one thing I want to say to you guys is when you're making content, do not put 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 keywords in. Keep it to 3 or 4. Otherwise, Instagram thinks it's spam. And sorry, when I say keywords, it's hashtags for people who don't know. So you don't want to put too many hashtags in because a lot of people think if I just put 1 million hashtags in, it has to reach something. That's never the case. It's actually quality trumps quantity every time. But when you're producing content, it's not the same. There is something to be said for you have to have high quality, but making 10 videos at maybe 85% quality compared to 1 video at 100% quality is always going to win. Always. Because you're not consistent enough. So you have to be consistent. You have to stay in the public eye. So I bet you if I was to stop doing Sensei Matt content for a couple weeks or a month, it'd be very hard to get that momentum back. So you have to take advantage. And that's one thing too. You're always preparing for that one opportunity that's knocking on your door and you can take it with both hands. That's one thing you guys have to keep doing is we just have to keep putting in the work and the preparation and being diligent enough and having that grit to keep doing the main thing every day. And not only is that producing content, but it's also being you. So I think that's my biggest thing is Sensei Matt has become quite a character. But people don't realize it's still me. They think I'm putting on an act. It's really me. It's just me to the 10th. Sometimes I do have to chill out a little bit. We talked about that, Sometimes the big energy is too much, and that's their problem. That's not mine. But sometimes you do have to adapt to the environment you're in. And I feel like this is just summing everything back up together. You have to be diligent with what you're looking at as far as analytics and who you're trying to market to. You have to be very specific at first. Then you can broaden out once you have an established base. And as far as content goes, to keep producing the content and the quality you need, you have to be good at telling stories. You have to add something for not only your general fan base, but your specific fan base. And I think the last thing, Elijah, that I want to tell you guys too is before you even jump on the camera, for all like you young, budding content producers, what you guys want to do first is just work on yourself, but don't do it too long to where you put off making your channel. That's something funny I noticed too. People are like, I need to work on myself. Yeah, you do have to work on yourself, but you should like just start. Like that's really what it comes down to is. And when I say start, don't make a channel if you don't have anything to say. You know, you have to have something to say. So if you don't have something to say right now, find something to say. Go and do something that people are going to pay attention to. Or go build a skill that people are going to say. Mine's karate. That's why I'm Sensei Matt. That's a skill that I've developed. And that's what I market to people because there is real value there. And that's something you have to keep in mind is if you don't have that skill yet, don't even start a channel. When I say start, don't start a channel. Start working on yourself. Once you get that in check, then go make an Instagram account. Actually make an Instagram account right away and track your progress so people can look back and see that. That's one thing I wish I did, but my parents were against me on social media, which I actually do agree. I don't even use social media other than posting my content or Snapchat, just communicating with my audience and fan base. It's really cool. I guess the last thing I was going to say to you guys is if you want to meet me, I'm going to be doing self-defense club. So Sensei Matt will be teaching real self-defense. And I think you guys, I'd highly recommend pulling up because you never know what's going to happen. College, it's a safe campus, but you never know where you're going to end up. And you might just look back one day and say, damn, I wish I had Sensei Matt's training. So I'd be happy to give it to you guys and ultimately empower you guys through saying, okay, I can walk in the room and handle myself. I know what's up. Not everyone can say that. Like I said, it's an invaluable trait to have. And last thing, make sure you like, comment, share, and follow. Follow me, follow Elijah, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much, Matt. You were terrific.